Hey, sports fans, PBZ Sports Chaos. We're back at you. PB, hey, we haven't celebrated. You've been celebrating. Oh, what do you got?
I got a Goose Island IPA.
Oh, I love Goose Island. I got a Fiddlehead IPA. This is not bad. I don't think I've ever had Fiddlehead.
All from Burlington, Vermont, right?
Yeah. Not bad at all, brother. Hey, listen, little melancholy start here. We're going to obviously talk about Dick Buckus for a moment. Probably the greatest linebacker. Some people might say LT. I think it's Dick Buckus. If you see the highlight films, it's obviously Dick Buckus because he actually murdered guys literally on the field, right?
Yeah, he was a badass.
Oh, God. And by the way, every major linebacker award from high school through college in the NFL is named after the Buckus Award, right?
Right. And they named the whole entire defense from him, the Monsters of the Midway. I don't recall being a nickname for the Giants defense when Lawrence Taylor was on them.
No, there you go. Good point. By the way, I did not know this. He actually grew up in Chicago, went to Chicago Vocational High School, went to Illinois. I did know that, and he played for the Bears. He's a homegrown kid, right? That's awesome.
It is.
Hey, by the way, speaking of homegrown kids, before we talk about Major League Baseball for a minute, DYK, you ever hear of this guy? Fred Richards.
No.
You know why we don't talk about it enough? He's from Stoughton, Mass, but he's a U.S. Olympic gymnastic. He's the third American ever to medal in the World Championships in the I think it was in the high bar last night from Stoughton, Mass. By the way, the first Black American and the youngest ever, 19 years old for the men. Obviously, the women have been doing this for years, right? So congratulations, right? By the way, hey, the PPC Sports Chaos, we watch all sports. We know what's going on, right, Paul?
We do. We got it going on.
By the way, MLB. So we saw the wild cards. I thought a couple would go 3, didn't you?
4 sweeps.
Disappointing.
All 4 were sweeps.
And the most shocking to me was the Diamondbacks. I mean,
right. There were 2 road teams. The Diamondbacks won on the road. Texas won on the road, even though you picked them. And I thought any of the road teams had a chance to win. It was going to be Toronto over Minnesota, and Minnesota took care of them in 2. That was crazy.
Yeah. So all right. So we got Houston. We've got the O's. We got the Dodgers, and we got the Braves. I mean, I took Houston and I got the Dodgers going to the World Series, so I'm going to stick with them this next round. What do you think?
Yeah, and I mean, I have the Braves winning it all. I'm not going to go back on that. I'd like to see the Orioles upset the Astros. I think that's a possibility, but just based on experience, I have to give the edge to the Astros at this point in time. So an Astros Braves with Braves winning.
I don't know. All right. We'll see.
I just think a good series. But I think those 4 teams, clearly, I think all 4 wild cards are going to go in and get smoked. I think.
I would agree with you. The 4 teams that got buys are going to win those series, I think.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. The only team, one team I think might, I know they're playing the Braves, but the Phillies are on fire.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
But you can't start off with your top 2 pitchers because they already pitched. So you're already starting in your, 3rd, 4th man in your rotation.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, college football last week, prime time lost again, USC. But at the end, they made the game close, a 7-point game. I know USC dominated the first half. They were up by 4 touchdowns, maybe. One thing I have to say, not about prime time in Colorado. USC's defense is going to keep Caleb Williams from winning another Heisman Trophy. You can't keep just winning by 5 or 7 points because the voters are going to take it away from you. By the way, you might get upset against a good team like Oregon in your division, right?
Right. You could also make the argument that every game is going to be a shootout. They're going to have to score points, and that can help them put up more numbers.
True. But you know what? There's been guys who've done that in the past. They didn't get the Heisman, so I don't know. We'll see.
How about that?
You know what the other thing is surprising to me? Louisville and Maryland are both 5-0 right now. Louisville finally got in the rankings. Maryland has it. But those teams, they're going to be shocking people down the road. We're not going to pick any of those games to this week. We could have, but they're going to shock people down the road, I think. So we'll see.
Yeah. And I took Maryland to smoke, as you did, too, to smoke Indiana last week, and they did.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, we just mentioned the Heisman. We mentioned Caleb Williams. Is there a front runner, though? I don't think there is. Do you think there's a front runner right now at the moment?
I don't know. There's a lot of kids. There's a lot of guys playing good right now. I mean, it's tough to say.
Last
You know,
year, after 5 games, there was a clear front runner. It was Caleb, right at the end of the
Yeah.
day. But I don't see. I mean, Caleb's in the mix. Michael Penix out in Washington, which they'll play later on in the year. That's the one as well. We'll see. It's gonna be an interesting year the way it works out for the Heisman Trophy.
Joe Nix could still sneak in there.
Oh, Nix, yeah, that's another one. Yes, there's a bunch of guys.
One of my sleepers was yours. I don't know. He could, potentially if that team keeps winning too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Right. It's kind of a wide open.
I agree.
Award for this year. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's make some picks. By the way, last week, how do we make out in our picks?
I think you and I went 2-1-1.
Okay.
And G Money went 0-3-1.
Oh, he came down to earth. Okay. All right. We get some picks. I was struggling which games I really liked this week, but here they go. First one, number 20, Kentucky. They go to Georgia, number 1 in the country. 14.5-point underdog is Kentucky. They are playing well. They romped on Florida last week.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, and this is where I whenever I see that half a point over 14, I feel like it's a trap, And I always say, you know what? I'm not going to fall into the trap of laying that extra half a point and saying, oh, because I'm getting this extra half a point now, basically, Georgia could be winning by 21, and then Kentucky scores a garbage touchdown in the end, makes it back to 14, and you lose your bet. This was the same spread with Indiana and Maryland last week.
Yes.
But you and I didn't fall in the trap. G Money did. But we said, you know what? Screw it. We're still going to take Maryland. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to say, screw it. I'm taking Georgia. It's in Georgia. The place is going to be crazy. And Georgia smokes them. I think Georgia puts up 45, 48, and Kentucky maybe scores 24-28. So it's going to be a 20-point win.
Mark Stoops has turned that program around in Georgia. They're competitive. Unlike their basketball team nowadays, who I love. We'll talk about that later in the year. But I am going to go with Kentucky. They're going to sneak in there, and I would not be surprised if on Monday we're talking about a Kentucky upset. That's how close I see this game.
Wow. Okay. G Money also has Kentucky, so I'm the only one on Georgia there.
All right. Next one. This one, I was not even going to put it on the board, but I can't even believe it's a 1-point game. I believe Bama's, if I'm not mistaken, is number 11, right? Bama, number 11, going against Texas A&M. I think we had Texas A&M last week in our picks.
Yeah.
It's a 1-point game. I know it's in Texas A&M, but they're not even ranked. And I know, hey, Saban keeps receipts. And Jimbo made those comments 2 years ago about NIL. Saban did, actually. I'm sorry. But you know what? Jimbo came back and said something stupid as well. I don't know. I don't think Jimbo has the talent. What do you think?
Yeah, and when I looked at this game and I said, man, why? Same thing you did. Like, why is it only a point? Bama's obviously the better team if they're favored on the road, right? To the better team. So I'll lay the point. I mean, all they got to do is win the game, right? So I'm going to take Bama.
I'm with you, Bama. What's G Money got?
He's got Bama as well.
Yeah, I don't know where the odds makers are coming from. I really don't on that one. All right. Next one. This is another one I'm like confused by. Number 13 in the country, Washington State. They're going to a conference rival, UCLA, at the end of the Pac-12, soon to be the Pac-2 or 2-Pac, some people call it. UCLA, Chip Kelly, which I love Chip as a coach. 3-point favorite. I don't even see where this is coming from. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think UCLA has the horses. And to your point, Washington State's been playing some pretty good football.
They have.
And they're getting 3 points. I mean, they're the better team for sure. And with UCLA, just because they're the home team, they're going to give 3 points to Washington State. Doesn't make sense to me. I got Washington State in this one. G Money does as well.
I'm going, it's a sweep to Washington State. I don't see where it's coming from, UCLA. I'll be shocked if we're not right. All right, the last one we're going to pick. We pick it every year. It's called the Red River Rivalry. It's the best game in the college football season. Always it's the 1st or 2nd October, Saturday. OU, number 12. Texas, number 3. Texas, a 5-point favorite. This is an interesting fact. They are number 1 and 2 in points allowed in the country, which go figure in the Big 12. But Texas and Oklahoma are playing defense this year. So I don't think we're going to see another 40-0 wipeout like we did last year. What do you think?
Is it on a neutral site?
Yeah, down at Texas Fairground, if you call it a neutral site.
Okay.
At the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah. I went back and forth on this, but at the end of the day,
5 points. Texas favored by 5, by the way.
yeah. And Texas is my pick to make the college football playoffs. I picked at the beginning of the year. It's kind of a, I don't call it a sleeper, but either way, they're having a great season so far. The 5 point scares me a little bit. But again, I feel like that's a trap. So I'm gonna go Texas, and G Money's going Texas as well.
Oh, baby, come on, Sooners. I got a feeling this is gonna be the game this year. They're gonna revenge is on their mind.
Okay. All right.
Hey, let's talk a little NFL real quick. We're gonna make some picks, but we're gonna have some takeaways. PB, I know you're not gonna like my first takeaway, but the Miami Dolphins, they win by 50. They play Buffalo the next week. They lose by 28. It's the first time in NFL history a team has won by 50 in the following week, lost by 4 touchdowns. What do you make of your Dolphins?
It was a little bit of a reality check. I think you need that at some point in the season. I don't think they're as good as Buffalo. I don't think they're as good as Kansas City. Baltimore obviously looks pretty good, but they might be able to compete with like a Baltimore. They could probably compete with a Jacksonville. Probably compete with San Diego. Well, they beat Los Angeles Chargers earlier in the year. I think the Bills and Chiefs right now are the teams to beat in the AFC. The nice thing about the Dolphins and the Bills is they're in the same division, so they get to play again. Last game of the year, they're actually playing down here in Miami, so that game could mean something. I love what I'm seeing out of Achane. He looks like the real deal. Is finally get an established running back in that offense to complement obviously the receivers and the speed balls. Every guy on that team, like they have the 4 of the 5 fastest guys in the NFL.
Yep.
I mean, they're fast. But their defense, they lost what's his name, Ramsey at the beginning of the year to an injury. That's going to hurt the team defensively. I think at the end of the day, though, you got to lose games. It's just like Dallas when they lost to Arizona. That was like a rude awakening. It's like, oh crap, we're not as good as we think we are. We have to improve, So
Good point.
I think that'll help Miami when you get right down to it. But I have concerns. I think they'll make the playoffs. I'm not worried about them not like falling out of the playoffs altogether. But I don't think they have what it takes to win a Super Bowl this year.
By the way, their offense, as you mentioned, is unbelievable. They got a sneaky big pickup today. A guy that I'm a big fan of because his physical tools. Chase Claypool, 6'6". He's a guy that can win the body race. You know what I'm saying? Physically. I think he's going to be a huge asset for that team because, Waddle and Tyreek, fastest lightning, but not the most physical guy. I know Tyreek's built, but he's not like 5'6" or whatever.
Right.
Chase Claypool is going to be a difference maker for that team, I think, in my mind. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And Berrios is right now is their 3rd guy, and then Craig Kraft is their 4th guy.
Claypool's immediately number 3. Claypool's number 3.
Right. I think he could move into that number 3 spot, and brings a different element to the game, right? Because now you can do that corner end zone jump ball, and he'll win that jump ball, right?
He's the Bam Adebayo of the Dolphins, right? The guy that can get up. We'll see. All right. Yeah. All right. Hey, Pats are playing New Orleans this week, but last week's game against Dallas, 38-3, complete shellacking. Maybe could have been worse than that. Bill's worst loss ever in his career to America's team. Are you concerned that this might be the Bills really falling apart?
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't know if I want to say Bills falling, the team's falling apart. I mean, they don't have talent. They don't have talent. They're not that good. And now defensively, they lose Judon for at least 2 months, and they lost their
Gonzalez, who's probably was on pace to be the rookie of the year, right?
Right. They're right. They're rookie sensation. I know they picked up J.C. Jackson back.
That's a good move. I'm surprised. I can't believe how fast they moved on. That's a good move. A guy who knows the system, who played well, which is why he got an $80 million contract, right?
But the only thing we kept saying this year that like they're around a 500 team, but even being a 500 team, their defense was going to have to win them games. And now they're not in that same situation because, they replaced Gonzalez maybe with J.C. Jackson, but you still don't have the pass rush of Judon. I don't know. I think this team's got a downhill run here. I don't see them finishing 500 or 8-9 or whatever we predict.
I'm with you at the moment. I had them 5 wins at the beginning of the year. I got a wild card for you though for a pass rusher. The Denver Broncos released Randy Gregory. He's a guy that Bill Belichick can make fit in his system. They haven't done anything with him yet, but I urge you, Bill, go get Randy Gregory. That's a guy that he can make work in his system.
Ex-Cowboy too, right?
Yeah, ex-Cowboy, man. Hey, by the way, Joe Burrow, who was in my our Survivor Fantasy League, what the heck is wrong with Joe Burrow right now?
I think he's playing through injury. I really do. I mean, this is just so not like him, and it's bringing down. Obviously, Jamar Chase's value has gone down. Higgins hasn't done anything. He had one game, but he hasn't done anything otherwise. And now he's potentially hurt. We'll see if he even suits up this week. Mixon hasn't really. I mean, the whole offense is just lethargic right now. Like this team's going into Arizona this week, and there's people who are probably picking Arizona to win that game.
I've seen that already. I've seen that with some scribes in the local news. Yes, you're right, man. So I'm worried, man. But interesting stat came out the other day. Joe Burrow this week is the first time he's played all week in practice without having any non-contact drill. So we'll see what happens. By the way, Jonathan Taylor is coming back to play for the Colts. Is that a big deal?
Yeah, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. As long as
he's playing for a contract, right?
Yeah, I mean, he just needs to be a player that is going to lift the team up. He can't be one of these quote cancers in the locker room, right?
Yeah.
He's got to be someone who helps the team, lifts the team in a motivational type way. In addition to his physical, we know he has the physical ability.
Yes,
but I wonder and worry about guys like this sometimes when they come back. Zach Moss was doing a hell of a job, by the way.
He was, former Bill. I don't know why they gave up on him.
And Richardson looks amazing, and Pittman's this is in his third or fourth year, but Pittman's looking pretty good there. And then you got the rookie Josh Downs, who's already making some plays. I mean, this team has a decent offense. I just don't want him to come in and all of a sudden be like, "Give me the freaking rock," because I'm back, and changes the whole attitude of the
dynamic.
Game.
Yeah, I agree.
They're 2-2. They could have been 3-1. Right, they were close to being 3-1.
Yep.
I think Jonathan Taylor, despite his physical abilities, might actually hurt this team.
Ooh, let's see. He obviously has all the talent. He's got fresh legs right now. You got to give him that. He's got fresh legs. Let's see if he's really willing to play. He's talked a good game for the last 24 hours, 48 hours. We'll see. All right, I got one more for you before we start talking about this week's games. The New York Giants. I love picking on them. Last week, 24-3 to Geno and the Seahawks. 11 sacks of Danny Dimes. 3 more turnovers.
Pick 6.
Yes. I'm going to ask you a question right now, Pete, because they're 1-3, correct?
Yeah.
Given what we're seeing with the Giants right now, and they shouldn't have even won that one game. They came back from 20 down to the Cardinals we just talked about. They should be 0-4 in my mind. Should they tank for Caleb right now?
Right, and they got Miami this weekend, which will be interesting. I don't know.
I would tank.
I mean, I know you're not a huge fan of Danny Dimes. At times he showed, but that red zone pick 6, he was in the red zone. And he threw a pick 6 when they could have got back in that game at that point in time. Was a big mistake. I don't really. This team's going to win 5 games this year, I think, at best. They're a 5-12 team, I think.
By the way, if you're a quarterback in the NFL with the last name Jones, your team's in trouble.
Well, to that point, how about the Patriots tanking for Caleb?
You know what? I would agree, except Bill's chasing the record, right? So he's not going to tank. So we'll see. All right, let's make some picks. We got some good games this week, and a couple games with some interesting background, and you'll see about what that is in a minute. First one, Jags and the Bills. That's overseas. Is that London or Germany? I forget what that is.
This one's in London.
This one's in London. By the way, Tre'Davious, is it White? I believe the cornerback. He's out for the rest of the year for the Bills. That's a huge hit. Von Miller is coming back, though. That's a huge lift for them. What do you think in that game?
Yeah, and Jacksonville beat the Bills last year.
Yes, they did.
When Jackson was just kind of getting on their rise and knocking off the almighty Bills. So I think there's a couple receipts there that will come back to haunt Jacksonville. I know things can change week to week, but what I saw at Buffalo last week, to me, they're Buffalo and Kansas City and Dallas, San Francisco. To me, those are the 4 teams right now that you just they're like AFC, NFC championship. Like that's what it should be. If we could just like get the season over with, that's what it should look like. Right?
As much as I hate to admit this, like I got to include Philly though.
A lot of football to play. A lot of football.
Yeah.
But yeah, and maybe, I'm not a big fan. I still think Philly's been lucky with some of their games. But anyways,
so you got Bills.
I got the Bills in this game. Yeah,
I do too. What's G-Money got?
G-Money's got Jacksonville.
Ooh.
By the way,
he's got a man crush on Trevor. That's why.
Yeah, probably. And by the way, G-Money was 1-5 in the NFL last week. Me and you were 4-2.
But he did go 6-0 the previous week, right?
He went 6-0 the previous week, but you and I went 4-2 when he went 6-0. So we felt like we sucked, and then we still stayed 4-2, and he goes 1-5. So
there you go. All right. Next game up. This one, in theory, on paper, you should say all day long, it's Baltimore. It's Baltimore and Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh, but they play tough games all the time. And by the way, the series is very close. Tomlin against Harbaugh is only 18-15, and he's had some very good teams with Big Ben.
Dude,
I like Baltimore because I love Lamar. What do you think?
I got Baltimore too. Here's an interesting thing that about the Steelers going into this year. Everybody I picked them to win 5 games, maybe 6 in my predictions. I think you might have had them up around 8 or 9. I had them at 5 or 6 wins.
Right.
Even at 8 or 9 with your predictions. I was watching Good Morning Football, right? And you had all 4 people. You had Peter Schrager, you had Kyle Brandt, you had Jason McCourty, and you had Jamie Erdahl, all giving their playoff predictions. All 4 of them had Pittsburgh making the playoffs, and none of them had Miami making the playoffs. And I'm like, what?
That's a little twisted. All right.
It doesn't make any sense. Like mix it up, even if you could just mix it up a little bit to have different picks and create an argument or something on the show. I'm like, what the heck? Pittsburgh is not even close to a playoff team. Kenny Pickett is not what people thought he was going to be. And
I disagree. I don't think he's bad. You know what? I would rather have him with Daniel Jones. I would rather have him with Mac Jones.
Right.
I would rather have him with Russell Wilson right now.
Yeah. Well, the O-line is struggling. There's just different
parts. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. They got to fix that problem.
So, Baltimore showed me last week their defense can step up. They can play. They're gonna crush them. Baltimore all day.
I think so too. G-Money?
Pittsburgh.
I know he's a big Pittsburgh. He loves that because he loves George. What's his name? The receiver, Pickens, right?
Yeah.
All right. This one we're only picking for one reason because we talked about this in the offseason. It's going to be revengeful. Jets at Denver, and we know what Sean Payton said back in the beginning of the offseason. This is the worst. This was the worst coach team in football last year with Nathaniel Hackett on the offense. So we'll see what happens here. Does Sean Payton eat his words? By the way, Zach Wilson, who we just said was the worst quarterback ever last week, had a pretty good game against KC, correct?
Yeah, he did. I mean, he still made stupid mistakes when it mattered, which
no picks. Did he have a pick? Well, I don't think he had a pick, did he?
No, but he had that fumble or that
That's right.
He fumbled the snap. I think the Jets did show me that they can compete, obviously, with that game against Kansas City.
Yep.
And to my point, and the reason why I picked them over the Pats, which I lost, was because of their defense, which is still healthy, and their big playability. And by the way, Saleh has said that Breece Hall is no longer on a pitch count or a snap count, right? So
thank God I need this for my survivor team.
Yeah, and I have him in one of my leagues too. But that guy he's a talented running back. He's really talented. He would have been rookie of the year last year if he didn't get hurt, in my opinion.
And by the way, Denver has right now statistically the worst defense in the league.
Right. And then compound that on it. So, and you look at guys like Garrett Wilson, who to me is one of a top 10 receiver in this league, potentially, maybe not with Zach Wilson throwing to him, but he's still a talented dude. Right. So I think there's too much big playability on the side of the Jets, and then couple that with their stellar defense.
Yep.
This is Jets all day to me. And by the way, if you go to 2-3, all of a sudden you're saying, hey, we can make the playoffs still this year. They go to 1-4. Your playoff discussion's pretty much out the window. So
I agree. I got Jets as well. What's G-Money got?
He's got the Jets too.
All right. This one is interesting. I at the beginning of the season, I would not expect this to be a close game, but Los Angeles Rams has showed me a little bit of stuff this year. Matthew Stafford is still a great quarterback in my mind. They play the Eagles. It's at Los Angeles. By the way, your boy Cooper Kupp is coming back, right?
Yeah, he is. He's coming back.
By the way, he's going to be teaming up Puka, who's got like 1 million receptions already, right?
Right. Yeah. And that could make. I mean, you can make an argument that might make Puka even better because now Kupp's going to draw coverage, right?
Yeah.
So Philly's not going 16-0 or 17-0. They're going to lose some games this year, and this is kind of a game that, if you look at the script, they should lose, in my opinion. But I'm not picking them. I'm picking.
Oh, you're teasing us.
I'm picking Philly.
I am too.
They're the better team, the better roster, the better O-line, better D-line. DeAndre Swift is running like mad right now because the holes they're opening up on that offensive line. He's doing the same thing Sanders was doing last year, right? And DeAndre Swift is just.
And by the way, I think DeAndre Swift is a better talent than Sanders. So talent always wins, right? By the way, I don't know. I'm going to give you credit for giving the Philly a better defense line. I know they got some studs. But Aaron Donald is on the other line, and so you got Aaron Donald, you get immediately a leg up.
You can make it, but Aaron Donald versus a pocket passer versus a guy like Jalen Hurts makes a difference too. If you're a pocket passer, Aaron Donald could really screw you. But if you can do what Hurts can do, Aaron Donald becomes less effective.
I got you. No, I agree.
So
all right, let's get the next one. We're going to take out
G-Money has the Rams.
Okay. Wow. Really? I'm surprised. Wow. All right.
Yep.
All right. We're going to go home here in Foxborough. The Pats are hosting New Orleans. I'm not so sure, man. You know what? Given the injuries we just talked about earlier, and given the fact that New Orleans does play a pretty good defense, and Mac Jones shows today still that he gets confused by tough defenses. I hate to say it, but I'm going New Orleans.
Yeah, and the money's flowing in too, by the way, on New Orleans because the line opened up at 2 or 1.5, and it's already down to even right now. It means New Orleans is favored by the time kickoff happens. I got New Orleans as well in this one, and G-Money has the Pats.
I mean, I hope he's right, but I don't see it at all, man.
He's different. He's different on 4 of the 5 picks that we made so far. By the way, you and I have the same teams so far. We haven't picked anything different.
Oh, all right. All right, the last game. This one really tears me. Dallas at San Francisco, who they've lost to the last 2 straight years in the playoffs. San Fran is looking incredibly talented and strong right now. Brock Purdy, who I thought at one point would lose his Cinderella slipper, but it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't struck at midnight. I don't know, man. What do you think?
Well, to your point, I mean, Purdy is probably the weakest link in this offense, and he's good. He's really good.
But he accepts that. He knows his role.
Right.
He's like Rajon Rondo in the 2008 Celtics.
You got CMC. You got Kittle at tight end. And then you have Debo and Ayuk wide receiver. Those 4 weapons are ridiculous.
And he knows how to use them all. He's a smart kid.
Yeah, and that's what thing. He plays a heady game. He just does what he has to do to win football games. And there's no way I'm going against this guy at home, even though it's Dallas coming into town. So I got Frisco.
I hate to say this, but I'm going Frisco as well.
And G-Money does too. So at least we're back on track there. You and I have the same 6 picks this year, so there'll be no movement in our standings.
I'm only picking San Fran until Dallas finally beats them. So that's the only reason why.
All right.
All right, man. Good weekend. Nice to talk.
All right, man. All right.
All right, man.